Hello, welcome to HowTo 8.1, Create a Frequency Table using Excel. In this walkthrough, we're going to recreate illustration 8.14, which is the Super Scooter's model frequency distribution. From the chapter, we learned that frequency distributions can help us understand how many times something has occurred within a group or interval. In illustration 8.14, we can see that the model for each of the super scooters and the frequency in which those models occurred in a sales transaction. So the captain had 1,010 sales orders. The Cellaritas was on 892, the Kicks 456, and the Laser 1,287. For a total of 3,645 sales. The relative frequency tells us what percentage of the total each one of these represents. So, for example, the Captain's 1,010 represents 27.7% of the total 3,645 scooters sold. To recreate this, you're going to need the Super Scooters 2024 to 2025 sales data. So find where you have that data and we can begin. I saved my data on the desktop, so I'm going to go ahead and open that up. I'll go ahead and get my data and my Excel file will open. Once the Excel file is open, I can see that I am on my sales transaction tab, so make sure you're on that tab. The easiest way to create a frequency table in Excel is to create a pivot table. So you can click anywhere within the sheet on any cell, and then you're going to go ahead up to Insert, and then Pivot Table. Excel will ask you, it'll confirm for you the range, and it'll ask you if you want to put it on a new worksheet or the existing worksheet. We're going to go ahead and say we want it on a new worksheet and click OK. Now we have our pivot table canvas and we're ready to go ahead and create our frequency distribution. So remember, in illustration 8.14, the models were on the rows. So I can go ahead and drag model down to rows. And now I need to be able to bring over the frequency, how many times each one of these models was on a sales order. So what I want to do is take my sales order number and bring that to values. Now notice immediately Excel figured out that we don't want to sum this, we want to count it. If, in fact, yours did not do that and it did a sum instead, notice this little down arrow at the end of count of sales orders number. If I click on that and go to Value Field Settings, there I can see that I have my choice to pick Count. While I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and format my numbers by clicking on Number Format. And I want it to be a number, but I don't want any decimal places, but I do want a comma separator. And click OK. Now the other thing I need is my relative frequency. So the way I can do that is to once again bring sales order down. And notice now I've duplicated that. But I don't want to have it just duplicated. I want to click on that little down arrow in this column and go to Value Field Settings. And notice I have a choice to summarize values by or show values as. I'm going to click Show Values As. And notice that I have choices, and I'm going to pick percent of grand total and click OK. Notice now I have my percentages just like I had in 8.14. I can go ahead and clean this up a little bit. I'm going to go back to the first count of sales orders number. And notice that I can change it to a custom name. So up here I'm going to type in frequency. And click OK. And then in my second count of order number, I'm going to go to Value Field Settings. And I'm going to change that one to be relative frequency. I'm also going to change the number format here to be 1 decimal place, so then it matches exactly what was in the illustration. Oh, looks like it changed it to not what I wanted. What I really want it to be is percentages, so I should have figured that out, shouldn't I? Percentage with 1 decimal place, and then I'll click OK. And now I have my decimal place. The same as my illustration, I have my frequency and my relative frequency, and now you have completed a frequency distribution table in Excel.